Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Prophecy Update. I'm Pastor Brandon, as you know, and our desire always is to look at the world and see what's going on and look at it from a biblical lens, but also a prophetic lens as well, to see what God is doing in the world, to help us prepare for what's happening as well as believers. So, thank you for joining us, and we're going to dig deep into transitory hyperinflation and the implications of that. Well, you might have heard this last week that Bank of America came out, one of the biggest banks in the world, came out and said, hey, prepare yourselves for transitory hyperinflation. Well, we're going to talk about what that means, but when you hear the word hyperinflation, then you obviously know that's a problem economically. Transitory means it comes and goes, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be transitory. We believe from prophecy that these steps economically to destroy our economy, to destroy the world's economy, is the catalyst that will allow the governments of the world to go to a digital currency and move itself from just a regional digital currency, but then move it to a global digital currency, a system that the one world government will control. Eventually, that will go into the hands of the Antichrist at the midpoint of the tribulation, and he will seize control of this system. So, what we should expect to see in our day and time, as long as we're here, is we should see a continual, if you want to call it a messing up of the economy, a destruction of our economy, a destroying of the free market system, capitalism, all those kinds of things that are related to free market systems. This is why, they're attacking the free market system, or they call it capitalism, which is a derogatory term, but it's the free market system, because the free market system is about as close to the Bible and its principles economically as one can get without Jesus ruling and reigning from the throne of David in the Messianic kingdom. So the free market system is the best system in our fallen condition. Okay, that's why they want to attack it. It's the closest thing to a biblical ideal. And so therefore, they're saying it's racist, it's systemically wrong, it's systemically racist, and this is why it's under attack. They want to go to a more hybrid type of thing where you have a corporate global fascism, if you want to call it. The Bible predicts it's called Babylonianism. And you have the kings of the earth, and you have the merchants of the earth, big business, politics, government, and then you have the religion of Babylon, all fused together in this conglomerate called Babylon. And what we really want to call it in our modern day and time probably would be, I would say, global corporate fascism is what we're about to see. Anyway, they've got to do their best to destroy our economy. They got to do their best to destroy the American dollar in order to move to this system. And you're going to see it in stair steps, but it's really rapidly happening. And so now when you hear this term, prepare for hyperinflation, that is intentional. And so again, Bank of America came out and said, buckle up, it's going to happen, and we should all expect it to happen. There's been so many millions and billions and trillions of dollars pumped into the society, fiatly, just printing off money. We should all expect that. And then with what we went through with this whole shutdown of the economy, and people were just not making anything, so now you have a scarcity of items. So of course hyperinflation is going to happen. You have a scarcity of items, and then you have money being pumped into the system. That destroys the economic system. You start getting hyperinflation. Simple economics, right? But why? It's not like these people are stupid. They're not dumb. They know what they're doing. They know basic macro and microeconomics just like you and I do. That you can't just keep doing this. You can't keep putting money into the system, just printing it off fiatly. You'll destroy the system and cause hyperinflation. So since they're not dumb and not stupid, then what's the agenda? So when you want to figure out what these guys are doing, don't look at what their hands are doing. Look at the agenda behind the scenes. And the agenda is to destroy the dollar, destroy physical currency, and eventually move everybody to a digital and then eventually a global currency. That's what they're trying to do. And so we're going to delve into this a little bit, drill down, try to understand it as best we can at a lay level. Economically, we're not asking anyone to get brushed up on macro and microeconomics, but it is important that you understand what they're doing to the economic system so that you and I can prepare. So what we see from the Bible is we see a developed economic system. It's a wicked, evil system that obviously the world has created, the global elites have created, and eventually the Antichrist takes over. And we see this in the Bible. And what we see is a disparity of income. We see a massive shift has occurred in the economic system to where all the money is piled up with the elites, the global elites, and everyone else on the planet is dirt poor. We see this, like, for instance, in Revelation 6:5-6. It says, "When I opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, 'Come and see.' So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, 'A quart of wheat for a denarius,'" or basically a day's wage in that day, "and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. And do not harm the oil and the wine." And so let's unpack that a little bit. It's showing a disparity of income, right? A disparity of wealth. And how is it showing that? It's showing that for the masses of humanity, that the economic system that they create, that's already being built right now as we speak, the economic system will have all the money piled at the top and everyone else would be dirt poor. Everyone else will have to work almost a whole day to get one meal, is the idea. That's what the book of Revelation is trying to say. But when it says, "Do not harm the oil and the wine," oil and wine in the ancient world were considered luxury items. So it's saying that don't harm the oil and the wine. Now, the oil and the wine represent that the luxury items are still available to the elite. That the elite, because they have so much money, they have the luxury items, available to them. Whereas everyone else is just scrapping to make a living. They're eking out a living economically. And we can already see how that disparity is already happening, and because of the things that they're trying to do right now is going to put the world in that situation. That's classic communism economics, that's classic Marxist economics or socialistic economics. What do you mean? The whole goal of those evil economic systems is to put everybody on the same plane. But the elite are above it. So the elites have everything, they have all the money, and everyone else is on the same plane together. And they'll say, and this is what the key words they say, "We just want things to be equal for everybody." Well, when you hear the term, "we want things to be equal for everybody," understand in a free market system, that cannot be. What we desire, and so in some countries it's available, in some countries it's not because of a totalitarian regime or a dictatorship. But what we want, like what we have in America, is the freedom of equal opportunity. That you have the ability to make your way in the world economically and make yourself a good living if you work hard and do the right things and you're honest. Okay. That's what we mean in the old days by equality. That everybody should have equal opportunity. Okay. That's biblical. What's not biblical is the new way they've interpreted equality. They're now interpreting equality as equity. Now, what do you mean by that, Brandon? Well, the term equity means for them equal outcomes. Equal outcomes. Not equal opportunity. They want equal outcomes, which means that they believe that a doctor or a lawyer or CPA who makes all this money, well, it's because of their privilege. It's their white privilege that got them to be able to make that kind of money. Versus this guy over here who's digging ditches, he didn't have white privilege and he's stuck digging ditches. So they're going to right the wrong of that white privilege, so to speak, and say, you know what? We're going to take more from these people who had white privilege, and we're going to shift the money to the guy digging a ditch, and give him equity. give him the same type of money, right? And so what they're going to try to do is take from those who earned it and give it to those who haven't. And so what you have is them trying to balance the scales through equity, it's called redistributing the wealth, it's called stealing, and then making everybody make the same amount of money. Whether you went to college or not, whether you have a PhD or not, you're all going to make the same amount of money. Now you think, well, that could never happen. Well, I'm telling you, that's what the Scripture is predicting. The Scripture is predicting that everybody in the world is on this one level. It takes an entire day's wage to get one meal. That's where it's heading. And that's classic Marxist communist economics. Okay? But the elites, though, are above that. They don't play by the same rules. There's this double standard. There's a two-system tier of justice, so to speak, and there's a two-system tier of economics. Everyone else is dirt poor and has equity, equal outcomes, but the elite have all the money. All the money gets funneled up to them, okay? And that's classic in any communistic regime that you have ever seen. Well, it's going to now happen at a global level. And so, again, we're looking at a tribulation passage where we're not going to be here, but we're seeing the signpost, the goalpost, and now we're seeing from our vantage point how we get there, how they're going to stair-step to that goal of basically global communism or global communalism or something like that. Let me go further on and show you some more evidence of what I'm trying to say. This is Revelation 18, verses 9, and then it's verses 11 through 17. And it says that the kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her. Now that's talking about the politicians of the world, the leaders of the governments who committed fornication. They actually did a deal with the Babylonian system, the whore, the religious aspect, and the economic aspect. So that's how they fornicated with them. And so what did they do? They lived in luxury, it says, with her. So she gave them back money because of doing a deal with them. Basically, these kings of the earth sold out their countries, sold out their people for money, is what it's really saying. And they'll weep and lament when they see the smoke of her burning. So ultimately, in the tribulation period, Babylon is destroyed. The Babylonian system is destroyed. Anyway, in verse 11, and the merchants of the earth, now here's the big tech, big corporations, the merchants of the earth, will meet and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. So the deal they cut is they're going to be able to buy and sell in this Babylonian economy as long as they play ball with the whore. They play ball with the governments of the world, because all three of them are together, and they're all getting rich off of everyone else. Okay? And it goes to the merchandise: gold and silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of most precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble, and cinnamon and incense, fragrant oil, frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour, and wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, and chariots, and bodies and souls of men. Now, what is all this list about? Well, it's ancient terms for luxury items. Okay? So, you put it in a modern day understanding, in modern day parlance, you would just say, look, the finest things of this world will be available to those elites, those global elites, like George Soros and Bill Gates and Bezos and all these government officials and stuff from these different governments. They'll all have access to all this stuff. They're not going to suffer. They're going to have their own healthcare system. They'll have their own retirement packages. They'll have their own way of spending the money they have, right? And that's usually how it is. But that's what it's saying. So they have all this. And that's what you see in Revelation 18 trying to explain. And it goes in verse 14, the fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you. What is the fruit that their soul longed for? Money, wealth. That's what this is. And all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you. and you shall find them no more at all. So it's talking about, the destruction of Babylon now, and they've lost their wealth, basically. But this is what gets them in the game. And verse 15, the merchants of these things who became rich by her, they became rich by her, and saying, alas, alas, that great city which was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, for 1 hour such great riches have come to nothing, or came to nothing. Now, with all that being said, understand the principle behind it. Right now, big corporations, big government, the tech industry, are all working together right now behind the scenes, and they're now pushing out wokeism through all the companies, the governments, and whatnot. They're all in the same ticket, okay? Wokeism is basically 180ism or is Babylonianism. That's what the values of Babylon are. They're 180 degrees different than God's principles and laws and whatnot. And so they're all on the same ticket, and they're pushing this. So this is why Coca-Cola and Nike and all these companies are pushing wokeism. This is why the CIA is pushing intersectionalism, if you've seen their latest commercial. And so they're all on this. They're all on this ticket. And the reason they're all on this ticket of wokeism is not because they believe in it. It's because the deal they're cutting is going to make them super, super wealthy. That's how we understand Revelation 18. And right now, that groundwork is being laid down. They're all in cahoots with each other, all of them. Whether it's some company, where it's a big tech, whether it's the government of the United States, they're all together with it. All of them. Europe, they're all online. And so something has been done behind the scenes. Somebody has been pulling the strings for these people. And it's all about getting rich. That's how the whore of Babylon lures people in. It's through money, making them wealthy, and making all of us poor. That's the goal. Make us nothing but slaves, nothing but bricks in the wall, making us just utilitarian, slaves to them. And notice what it says in Babylon 18. It turned that they trade, bodies and souls of men. What does that mean? They get back into a slave trade. The system of economics they're getting ready to put out will make everyone on the planet a slave. And I'll explain how. It'll make everyone a slave. You won't be in literal chains. But when they're able to control the economy, when they're able to control your buying and selling, you're a slave at that point in time. It's a wall-less prison, but it is a prison. And you will be a slave to this system the longer we stay here and the Lord hasn't raptured us. Anyway, we'll talk about it more. So what they're saying, Bank of America, one of the largest banks in the world, coming out and saying, hey, buckle up, prepare for inflation. And so inflation refers to the general increase in prices of goods and the services in the economy, and that happens over time. It corresponds with the decrease in the value of money. Okay, it's real simple. And so they have been doing this through the shutdown. There's a decrease of commodities, and now the commodities are rising, and then you have more money being pumped into the economy that's just being printed off, right? So you have inflation. We should expect inflation. We should expect hyperinflation. So when Bank of America says this, we as good economic students and know prophecy should know it's coming. There's no way around it, because none of them are doing anything to fix this. They keep doing things that on the surface look stupid, but they're not stupid. It's intentional. They're intentionally destroying the economic system of the world, of Western society, because they have more things in mind. I want you to think about this. Joe Biden just printed off $1.9 trillion in a stimulus package. And so to the Babylonians in America, Joe is their hero. He's the Messiah. He's the good old boy that's going to bail them out with his stimulus money. And what they don't realize is good old Biden is being controlled by somebody. All of these politicians are being controlled by somebody, and it's not a conspiracy. The global elites and the global bankers are controlling them, telling them what to do. And they're telling Joe Biden who is just a puppet on the string, and all these other politicians to blow up our economy, to destroy the free market system on purpose. And I want you to think about this stimulus bill that they put out. Okay, it's just wrong just to begin with, because it's just printing off money and introducing more currency into it, into our system, which destroys the value of your money, right? So if you have $1,000 in the bank, it's not going to be worth $1,000 in its purchasing power. It might say you have 1,000, but that $1,000 is not going to go anywhere. And so that's wrong at the outset. They shouldn't be doing that. And then, the stimulus bill has a bunch of pork in it. And when you look at all where the money's going, it's going for all kinds of crazy stuff, $470 million in the bill doubles the budgets of the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the National Endowment of Arts and Humanities. This was supposed to be an economic recovery. Why is it going to that? $2 million in the bill to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. What in the world? $270 million of that money goes to the National Endowment of Arts and Humanities. What? $350 billion to bail out 50 states and the District of Columbia. Why? $128.5 billion to fund K through 12 education. Why? $86 billion to save nearly 200 pension plans insured by the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corp. Why? $50 billion goes to Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. $39.6 billion to higher education. Why? $1.5 billion for Amtrak. Why? You see what's happening here? $1.5 million earmarked for Seaway International Bridge, which connects New York to Canada. Why? $50 million for family planning, going to Planned Parenthood, public entities, including services for adolescents. Why? $852 million for AmeriCorps. Why? And again, when you look at all this and you see all the pork that's in the stimulus, it's not for an economic relief. This is to pad the wallets and fill the wallets of their constituents and those who support them, and like Planned Parenthood. Why are they getting any money? All these people, why are they getting any money? It was the school systems that decided to shut down. That's on them. We shouldn't have to pay for them. Like in California, the schools get like over 0.5% of the California budget, and they keep cranking out kids that can't read and can't do math. Why? Why do we think we want to give them more money? What does it have to do with an economic stimulus? See, they're not giving it per se to the people who went out of business. They're giving it to all these other government entities and things of that nature. And so hey, this is not about an economic recovery. This is not about getting the small businessman back on his feet. This is a lie. This is to destroy the economy. And then and why they destroy it, they're going to help their little buddies out along the way. I like what Megan Henry of Fox News said. The exorbitant level of spending has pushed the nation's deficit to a record $3.1 trillion for the 2020 fiscal year, which does not include the $900 billion relief plan approved in December. And so the national debt is on track to hit $30 trillion by the end of 2021. Don't they know this? Of course they know it. So they're trying to destroy the economy. And then if you ever looked at the commodities, what's happening there? They're skyrocketing, like lumber and food and all kinds of other things. They're just skyrocketing. That's because of hyperinflation and the shortage of commodities. Used cars. People can't find used cars anymore. There's a shortage of used cars. And there's all kinds of, you just do a search on the internet, just do a search and say decrease in commodities or commodity price rising, inflation fears, something like that. It'll pull it all up. There's hundreds of articles out there about this. So it's not like we're making this up. It's happening. So what's all the intention? Destroy the economy so that we can move to a digital currency. That's what the intent is. And that's inevitable. They're talking about it. And the new coin, even in the United States, that they're trying to develop, is called the Fed coin. And so that should be very troubling, because a Fed coin, a digital Fed coin, means they're going to remove wealth in terms of physicality. You're not going to have money in your wallet anymore. And all kinds of other Western governments and other countries are already planning their own versions of it anyway. And so investmentwatchblog.com said, thanks to the Federal Reserve, the idea that you can go into a store and anonymously purchase something with cash might be soon obsolete. Why? Because they're developing something called Fed coin, which would be based on blockchain technology. So, guys, it's no secret. They're doing this right now. They're talking about it. They want this to happen. And the politicians want it to happen. Someone's telling them that this is what we want, and they're doing it. So, guys, you have to understand that cash is going to be dead soon. It's going to die. And it is being assaulted right now. The free market system will be dead soon. We're going to move into some type of hybrid corporate fascism. And here's the deal. You're going to be given a certain amount of time to turn in your old dollars for digital currency called the DUSD, Digital United States Dollar, okay, the DUSD. And the longer you wait, the less you're going to get for your money. That's how it's going to work. So the money in your bank account will overnight become digital US dollars, okay, DUSD. But it's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. There's going to be a progressive scale. And guess who is going to get the higher value for your dollar? Yeah, you're right, the government. For instance, to do the exchange rate with the federal government, which is going to come down, they're going to get a certain percentage higher. So let's say you want to buy $1 of their digital currency. And basically, you're going to be forced to do this anyway. So they'll have, okay, this is $1 digital currency. You will have to spend $1.50, so to speak, to buy their $1 with your money. They're going to make money off you exchanging your money. It's not going to be at a 1-to-1 ratio. It won't be. You're going to get charged. So you're going to lose money. They're going to make more money on you changing your money from cash to digital. That's what they're going to do. They're going to call for all your cash to be turned in, and they're going to give you a specific exchange rate. Now, they're going to give you a higher exchange rate if you turn your money in quicker rather than drag your feet on this. So if you do it more promptly, you get a higher exchange rate. But the longer you wait, there will be a declining exchange rate. You will get less digital for your saved up cash. And see, that's how they're going to get people on board and to do it quickly. And they want people to be forced into trade in their cash and put it on the digital books. Again, all of this is to be able to control the economic system that they're ushering in, which is not the free market system. Now, already in the world, there's 6 jurisdictions that are using digital-only currencies. The Bahamas, Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, South Africa, Sweden, Ukraine, and Uruguay. But it's coming everywhere. You're not going to be able to avoid it. There's no place you're going to be able to run to. It's all here. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have a choice. You just won't. And that's the way the world is going. And folks, they're really going to sell it. And most people in this world will believe what they say. They're going to laud it as this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is the greatest invention we've ever come up with. Because, they're going to give you all these benefits that are going to come out. Look, we won't have any more under the table. We won't have any more crime things that are going on, under the table money. We won't, how will criminals be able to do their their crime. If there's no cash, there's no money, it's all digital, we'll know all of this. So it'll eliminate crime, they're going to tell you. And after we went through this last pandemic, they say it showed that cash is antiquated in nature and that we need to go to a digital dollar because that it's efficient, it helps people out quicker. It's hygienic because money has germs on it and you can pass germs along through money. It's efficient in the fact that it can reduce the cost of payment delivery, and you can run money through all kinds of different systems to get money delivered correctly and without any problems. Payments to individuals, access, through their bank accounts and whatnot, real easy. You don't have to go to these low-cost cashing services anymore. It just goes straight into their bank. It helps ensure the most vulnerable of our society, etc., etc., etc. And you know what? People are going to say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. They're going to go hook, line, and sinker. They're going to beg for it. They're saying, this is what we've been waiting for. This makes our lives so much easier, right? That's what they're going to do. And this all makes sense if you want a global government. You got to control the economy. And now here we are in this day and age, and the technology is available to be able to control the buying and selling of everybody. And this is where it's going. But here's the bad part they're not going to tell you. They're going to know every transaction you and I make. Every transaction, every deal. Your anonymity, your privacy is now gone. Your freedom is now gone. Okay? And what do you mean by freedom? Well, they might be able to say, look, a portion of your cash can only be used for this. A portion of your cash, digital cash, can only be used for this. And you can only use this money for this. But you're not going to be able to use it for doing this, doing that, X, Y, Z. They will control how you spend that money. They will say you have a certain percentage you can spend on buying a house or buying a car. Or you have a certain percentage that you can spend on buying food. But you can't go past that. And so they'll tell you how you can spend your money. To some people, they will even tell them, hey, look, we'll give you a living wage, but at the end of the month, you have to spend the whole thing. And this goes back to the concept of you use it or you lose it, right? We're going to give you a living wage, but you got to use it by the end of the day. They want the money to come to the person and not save it. They want it to go out back into the economy. They want to flow into the economy. There's no savings in this kind of economy, right? And then, they'll monitor you. What did you buy? They'll analyze every transaction you made to figure out what kind of person you are. And if you're buying certain things, they'll say, hey, look, you're an extremist. You're labeled as an extremist because we notice the things you buy, and that's kind of extreme. And so we're going to have to really watch you and curtail your activities, what you're doing and how you buy and sell. Or they can completely erase your account. Or they can freeze your account. Or they can charge your account. Okay, so they can do anything. And one of the things they can do is a social credit score. And China's already doing this, and in America, they're already starting the idea of a social credit score with the ESG score. The ESG, like we've talked about before, E stands for environmental, S stands for social, and G stands for governance. Now they're going to say, look, we're going to look at your ESG score, your social credit score, and we're going to see whether or not it merits you being able to buy and sell this or that. And if your scores are low, we're not going to let you do things like that. And we've talked about that, but they can curtail our buying and selling when they have a digital currency and put that with a social credit score. That's scary. And before you know it, you just won't be able to buy certain things. You might be relegated to just buying food, but you can't buy anything else with that digital currency. And again, that's where they can control everything. And so it's a scary reality, but at the end of the day, it is predicted by the Bible. It was forewarned by the Bible. And so what has come about is I want to show you this pyramid. And this is what the one world government economically looks like and who has the power, okay? And so you start at the bottom, and that's everyone like us at the bottom. All humanity is at the bottom of this pyramid. And then one level up, you go to the government. But who controls the government? Well, the big corps, the big corporations do. And then who controls the big corporations? The national central banks do. And then you go up one more level past that, you get into international central banks, right? And then who controls the international central banks? You go to the central bank of all central banks, the Bank for International Settlements. And then if you continue to go up the pyramid, you get the global financial elites. They're at the top, right? But then above them is Satan. So I want to show you this picture so you can see what the structure looks like. Who's actually in control of the Babylonian economic system? This obviously is controlled by Satan. It's an evil system, it's a wicked system, and it's being implemented now by all these layers on the pyramid all the way down to the government. Okay? So the government and these other corporations will be who you and I are dealing with, okay? That's where social credit scores are going to come from. That's where the digital money is going to come from. But above them is all these other puppet masters pulling the strings. This is important to see. It's important to know. This is not a conspiracy. This is the structure that is in place. And this is how they're going to do it. Now, what does that mean for you and I? Well, you and I have to be a watcher on the wall and tell people about this. We have to warn people about this. And we have to tell them what prophecy's doing, how the stages are getting set, and how they need to be saved, right? Okay. But what about you and I personally on our discipleship level? Well, on our discipleship level, we have to grow deeper roots. We're going to have to grow deeper roots spiritually in order to handle what we're going to see. You know, you have to have two narratives in your mind. Yeah, we could be raptured right now at any time, or we can see a lot more develop. Well, in order for us to handle more coming down the pipe, you and I have to be spiritually mature to handle that. And I go back to the parable of the four soils. It's that one soil that sprouted life, right? The seed sprouted, which indicates it's a believer. But what happened? It didn't have deep roots. It grew up in rocky soil, didn't have deep roots. And when the sun came out, the sun scorched it. The sun represents persecution. The deep roots represent spiritual maturity, which that plant did not have. So for you and I to handle what's coming, we have to sink deep roots. Okay, let me give you an example. What do you mean by sinking deep roots? Well, what's being challenged here? The economic system. A lot of people, even believers, derive their security from economics. Do I have enough money in the bank? Do I have a pension plan? Do I have this? Do I have all these things in place? Do I have insurance? All those things are great, and you have to have them. But what we're saying is this. At the end of the day, you're going to have to rely on God. How is your trust in the category of economics with God? Oh, I already know that you believe in Jesus. That's not the question. I'm asking you if you trust God for economics. Do you trust God to provide for your needs, even if they wipe out your bank account, even if they take over your money in a digital way? Can you trust God to meet your needs? Can you trust God for your economic security? Because if you can't, you're going to flip out. You're going to crumble. You're going to break. You're going to crack. And what you're going to see with a lot of Christians, they will compromise with the system. They'll go along with the system in order to get their measly little crumbs from the government. They will sell out because their roots are not deep. They will compromise. And we don't want to compromise. So we have to prepare ourselves spiritually. So if that's an area of struggle with you, you have to figure out, why do I struggle in this area? Is it a matter of control? A matter of wanting security? What is it? Well, spiritually speaking, God is in control. God takes care of us. It doesn't mean you don't, you just live laissez-faire and don't take care of business. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, where's your trust? Second thing, on a personal level, watch your money. Watch how you're spending. Watch your debt. Watch everything. Be very conservative in your purchases. Understand that get your stuff now, the necessities of life, get your stuff now before the hyperinflation takes those necessities so high that it takes a lot of money to purchase one of those items, especially food items. So, maybe get some freeze-dried food and put that away, just in case. You just never know. I'm not saying prepare for the tribulation, because we won't be here, but you need to still prepare a little bit for what's coming. If hyperinflation is coming, you're going to have to be prepared for that. That means a lot of things are going to go skyrocketing, and you won't be able to afford them. You got to think about where you're living, what you're doing. Are you living close to beyond your means? If you're that way, you need to back off a little bit. You need to give yourself more margin economically. If you don't have any margin and you're living from check to check, that could hurt you. So back off on a few things and see if you can get some margin. And again, it doesn't mean drastic changes, but you just need to be prepared economically for more margin. That's all. And we'll ride this thing out. The Lord will provide. The Lord will take care of us. The Lord will see to it that He takes care of us as long as we trust Him, right? We trust Him with our money. We trust Him with our finances, and He will see us through it. Third, what I would say is this. So you have the personal aspect, and then you have the evangelism aspect, but then the discipleship aspect you have to think about. And then the discipleship aspect, you and I need to be able to explain this to believers, other believers, and to disciple them and help them out in this area. Because literally they're not prepared for this. If they don't know prophecy and they don't know what's coming down the pipe, and they especially don't know good stewardship biblically, they're going to need your help in discipleship. So see, all three areas are covered. Evangelism, my personal walk with the Lord, and discipleship. All three areas need to be covered. If you can do that, that's all you need to do. God's in control of everything, but we need to do our part, our responsibility of what He expects us to do. And if we are about our Father's business, then you can sleep at night. If you're doing what God called you to do, then don't worry about it. Understand and warn, but don't lose sleep over it, because our Father will take care of us if you serve Him properly, if you trust Him properly. Okay? All right, we got to get running. Couple announcements before we go. On Wednesday nights, Pacific time, 6 p.m., I do a Q&A, question answer of current events. So if you want to watch us online, tune in to our YouTube channel, Rock Harbor Church of Bakersfield, and tune in at 6 p.m. Pacific Coast Standard Time. And you watch us there. We'll live stream that. We'll do Q&A, and you can ask questions through that venue as well. Also, make sure you have our Rumble and Vimeo accounts. We're also we have podcasts on Spotify, Podbeam, and iTunes. Search Rock Harbor Church, The Anchor on the podcast. We're also on sermonaudio.org. And so we're trying to get on all these other new venues to make sure we're covered. We're on this YouTube channel. I don't know for how long, but it is Rock Harbor Church Bakersfield. And we're trying to get back the audience that we lost from our first platform being shut down. Anyway, if you also want to be in our text alert system, follow this link, fill the form out, put your cell phone, and we will text alert you anytime we do different things. If we get shut down, if certain things are happening, we will alert you to what's happening. Lastly, we need your prayers, because we are being bombarded spiritually. by the forces of evil, obviously, that don't want us to be saying these kinds of things. And so we need your prayers for that. We also need your financial support. We're a small church. We're trying to build a building, like I've mentioned before, but we need money in order to do ministry. And to do this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of help. It takes a lot of people helping us here on the ground, and sometimes we have to pay those people to help us. So we want to be able to continue to do ministry. So if the Lord puts it on your heart to help us, that would be great. So anyway, I got to get running. You got to get running. But remember what the Lord said. When you see all these things begin to happen, like the stair step to the global economic digital system, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. God bless you. We'll see you next time.